We'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Do you have any additions to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have several here. On the consent agenda under item 2, Commissioners' Warrants, we have add-ons this morning of $116.03, 116.03. If you'd please that add to the consent agenda. At approximately 9:06 a.m., we'll have the Sheriff and Jail Administrator here to go over the Sheriff's Jail Medical Service Contract for an action item, approximately 9:06. And I have at 9:30, I inadvertently put the Elizabeth's name as Hudson. That was her associate that I was working with getting her scheduled. Last name is Hoffman. So I apologize to her already for that error. And at 10 o'clock during our public hearing for Commissioners Districting, I have a new resolution. It'll be 59-21-22. So 59-19-21 will be deleted and not used. So I'll have a new resolution for redistricting. And Mr. Chairman, that's all I have on my list.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the agenda as adjusted.
Okay,
I'll support that.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approve the consent agenda. Approve the minutes of 4/12/22. Approve the commissioner warrants and the add-on of 116.03. Approve the auditor warrants of 4/15/22 and 4/22/22. And approve the hospital warrants of $640,064.97.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Then you have the resolution.
Mr. Chairman, the first thing we have this morning is the state of Minnesota through NACO, the National Association of Counties, has come before us again, as they've done in past Aprils, to have a state of Minnesota proclamation issuing that to today be County Government Appreciation Day. So we have a copy of the proclamation as signed by Governor Walz, and then I also have a resolution for the board to adopt 59-20-22 regarding our own Pipestone County resolution for public service excellence of county staff and officials by proclaiming April 26, 2022 County Government Day, County Government Appreciation Day. As you know, we celebrate the County Government Appreciation Day with our employees in June of each year by doing a grill out luncheon for them. So we will plan on having that in June as well. Okay. And today will just be recognition that this is County Government Appreciation Day, and we'll celebrate with our employees and staff in June on this.
Sounds good.
Mr. Chair, I'd move for approval.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Nick.
Good morning.
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 2 minutes.
I won't take any longer than that. First up is just a FYI. We have sent out requests for quotes for our annual maintenance striping. And I'll have that back and ready for approval on May 10th. So that's in the works. Next up for me is a request to purchase our roadside chemical supply or chemical supply for roadside spraying for 2022. This purchase is through Nutrient Ag Solutions for $15,040.10, and that is state contract price.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve the quote for $15,040.10 for chemical spraying.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, and then lastly, in case you hear anything, did you get the map with the packet? Okay. I was approached a couple weeks ago about a wind tower project in Lincoln County. They wanted to use that original proposed route I have highlighted there. It'd be a number of our county roads. They asked what would go into that, and I told them that, you know, in the past, the last two projects that I've kind of been in charge of, or that happened while I was engineer, I should say, that the wind tower company has done a road use agreement. When I remember, the board's been supportive of that. You know, those worked out well. They kind of checked out the roads, estimated damage, and cut us a check for that. So I said, you know, I think that would be the best way to do it. You know, because it worked well in the past, and then they got looking at the numbers on that, and I think they're going to go around. They're going to use state roads instead. I think it's going to be more cost effective for them. But just wanted to let you know, if you hear anything about it, that that's what's going on. They asked us, and that's what I told them. And I think they're leaning towards just using the state roads now, but it might come back. So just keep in mind if you hear anything about it. You know. So.
Do they reimburse the state then?
I don't think so. I think that's why it's cheaper. I don't think they have to reimburse the state, but if they reimbursed us, it'd probably be, I don't know. She thought it'd be a lot, like 6 figures, so that's why they wanted to go around.
Sure.
So,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, is the laydown yard in Pipestone County or is that in Lyon County?
I do not know. All I was asked about was this haul road.
That was just
So I assume it's,
enter once and
well, this is for gravel. I should have specified that. There's a gravel pit here at the end of this route,
okay.
and they're talking, what was it? A couple thousand truckloads or something like
This
that.
is not just the blade route. This is for gravel.
Correct. This is for gravel. Yeah, I should have specified that, but yeah, they're talking 1,000 or a couple thousand, whatever it was, loads of gravel. So that's how it racked up to be so much on our roads. So
And the aggregate tax would be applicable here.
Yes.
Yep.
yep. So we'll see some out of that. So, all right. Well, I guess that's all I had. Did I get it in 2 minutes? Not quite.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
All right. Any other questions for me? Otherwise, that's all I have today. No. All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Keith and Tyler.
Morning.
Morning.
First, I think Tyler wants to introduce 2 of our new jailers. We have 3. 2 of them are working today, so we thought we'd just introduce them to you guys.
Yeah, so we got 2 out of the 3 of our new jailers. We have Seth and Corey Hakula. They both started last week on Monday, and training's going well. And we're hoping early mid-May we'll be back up and going finally.
That sounds great.
Glad to have you guys. Yep.
Smile for the camera.
And another part of keeping open is we have to have a doctor through the DOC, Department of Corrections, not on staff, but has to sign off on our policy, has to basically go over us. We've gotten by with that the last few years with a local doctor that wasn't actually through Avera, but now he has retired, and because of situations, insurance situations, it'll no longer works to go locally. We have to go through a actual companies. There's different companies that actually provide this for jails, so we can't go local. It just doesn't work out. So we have a couple of proposals. Tyler's going to explain them to you. It's going to cost more than we've been paying, but yet in the long run, it's going to give us a lot more services we haven't had that we need to have, including mental health. They're going to come to our facility, different things. We don't know exactly how it's going to work because we've never had it before, but most jails do have this already. So Tyler can kind of explain, go over the proposals. And
So you guys
some questions before we go on though. So I'm understanding that the state has changed their regulations on this to you, so we
They're
can't.
getting tougher on it.
It just seems incongruent that we're a county-owned hospital and we can't provide our own medical care for our
It's
county.
insurance.
It's an insurance issue.
It's a liability, okay.
We can still bring inmates to the hospital. It's the signing off on our policy that's the issue. Avera said that they can't have their doctor sign off on our policies. Minnesota Trust, our insurance says, well, we're not gonna insure doctors, and it's just a dead end.
So
that
it's
way.
not medical insurance, it's liability insurance, is that what they're concerned about?
Liability for not signing off on our policy. And it's just we've worked on it for 4 or 5 months now, and it's just, neither side's gonna give, and that's just, I mean, it's just kind of the way it is. So it's
unfortunate.
not local doctors, they wanna help,
Yeah.
but it's above that, it's,
Is there anybody at the state level that can be talked to about this, or? I just hate it when the state makes decrees and it costs the local.
I'm not so sure that the problems we're having is a state issue. I think it's a privately owned business insurance issue. Does that make sense? Vera.
Dan, I can shed a little more information on it. The issue is with our insurance. Minnesota County's Insurance Trust does not insure medical professionals. Bottom line, they do not do
medical
it.
malpractice.
Medical malpractice is what we're talking about.
Okay.
So there's no coverage for it. So if we were to go ahead and sign this contract, we would have to at some point try
CIT.
another contract. We'd have to try to go find other medical malpractice insurance on the open market. And then still being part of MCIT, it does leave them open for secondary claims as well. So it's unfortunate, but it's just the way that it has to work, and it's
Thank you for that
specifically listed in
explanation.
MCIT's,
Yep.
in their policies and their documentation. And when this first came out, I got a hold of our representative, Tom Suppus at MCIT, and we had several meetings with him via phone and trying to get it explained how it worked, but it came down to the contract language that they were asking the county to sign is to provide medical malpractice insurance for the physicians doing the work, and we're unable to do that.
I understand now, yeah, with MCIT, now I make the connection.
because we felt the same way, that this don't make sense, but it's just.
We tried different angles too. I mean, we really did try to figure out a way that this could work. It just, they will not budge on it, so we have
Thank
to
you.
respect that.
Well, I want to, no, it wasn't the local doctors, they wanted to help, and
Right.
above them would not let them, so.
So by having this company, then, if anything happens, they will not go back on MCIT
No,
in any way?
This company holds their own insurance, and their liability will be on themselves. They insure themselves.
they will help us make a policy to help us from getting sued. I mean, there's still, obviously you can't, I mean, they'll back us if we follow their policies and stuff like that, so.
Right, they'll indemnify the county to not,
Right, and obviously, if there's an emergency, we still use our ER, so, I mean,
Right.
if there's they'll basically, they'll take care of our inmates, they'll come here, they'll do all that stuff, so.
I guess at this point, I would entertain a motion to approve it.
So we have 2 of them,
Oh.
so.
There's 2 of them if you want to discuss them, but the one was from Advanced Correctional Healthcare, ACH. That bid was, I don't even have it in front of me, to be honest with you, 72,000,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Something along those lines. And then the other one is from this Mend Correctional Care. Their bid was 47.
6.9, I think.
46,900.
And it seems like a big number, but all that comes with this, we will actually have a jail nurse on site staff for 8 hours a week. 24/7 on-call service to physicians and nurses as needed. Mental health treatments and assessments, which is a big thing with the DOC right now. We also get staff trainings, including medication delivery, CPR, first aid, that kind of thing. Mend is a company that other counties around us use as well, so I'm not completely foreign to it. I know a little bit about it. Nobles uses it, which is a big one, but then Jackson, Cottonwood, Redwood, they all use Mend as well.
Tyler, is that who you're suggesting going with then? Men?
Yes, that is who we are more interested in going with. Yes.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval.
I'll support that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion?
Budget-wise, Keith, I assume this is gonna be a pretty big hit on your budget.
It will, but there's other stuff in the budget for now for stuff that'll go towards this, so
It
we
won't
don't
cripple you.
know exactly but it will be a hit, yes. But this will start in the middle of the year, so it'll only be half a year. This will go from whenever, say, May 1st to May 1st, so it'll only be a half a year, you know.
Okay.
It's not a fiscal year, it's whenever we sign it.
Any more discussion? Not? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Amanda?
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so we got a couple items. First item is there's an abatement request for the recycling fee or the solid waste assessment. Lene and Ed Skolton, it was a former commercial building, but it's not being used that way anymore. So it's, according to the assessor's office, it's not subject to the solid waste assessment. So they requested an abatement on that, and the assessor's office and our office signed off, and we are now coming to you to see if you approve or not.
Mr. Sheriff.
I was just curious, who is subject to the fee?
So, I guess I don't have that in front of me. That would,
Everybody,
Right, well,
Elmer
right.
Township gets charged its fee, and they don't use any garbage services. All they have is one little building in Krosky. And I've tried to get it off of the Elmer Township, and that didn't work, so we just keep paying it, so.
I mean, all residential and commercial, so apparently this is something in between, or?
Farms don't get charged for this, correct?
I can't say for sure.
It's not on the, I don't think it's on the farm property tax sheet.
Okay.
Another perk for the farmers.
We get a little clarification on that?
Yeah, do you need some more before we?
I would like that, just to
Sure.
have an idea of who.
Give Kyle a call. Kyle Greer.
Yeah.
No.
He could tell us.
Mr. Sheriff, if I may, though, on this one, it's pretty straightforward. It's been recommended by both the assessor and the auditor. And again, it's an adjustment because this was formerly commercial, now it's for personal storage, so this falls within that. So I would move that we approve this as it is. And if there's more questions as far as how this is applied, we certainly could look into it further in the future. But for this, I think it's pretty straightforward. So I would move that we approve this
Yeah, I
request.
guess, I'm just curious, what are the exemptions to?
Yeah.
I mean, why is this exempt and your example's not?
Well, the difference between commercial use and personal use. For personal storage, if you've got a building for personal storage, it's not subject to that assessment.
I mean, even personal storage don't you occasionally generate waste? Just thinking. I mean, anyone that stores stuff still creates garbage at times. I'm just thinking.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend let's have Amanda get a hold of Kyle Greer and see if
Yeah.
maybe he can stop down in a little bit. We'll have a quick discussion with that. Be all right?
Yep.
I don't think
I
it
agree
changes it doesn't change your motion.
Yeah, I'm
You
not-
can
I'm
still
not-
move forward with that.
Yeah.
But if you want clarification on the policy, how it goes forward.
Or
but-
future use moving forward, but for this, it's pretty straightforward. So I still move that we approve this request.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And we'll get more information.
All right. And so then the second item here was there is a ballot Dropbox grant that is available. And early deadline is in May. But again, if there are still funds, you know, you can still apply after that. From what I read, it is a reimbursable grant. There's no match requirements. So kind of wanted to have the discussion with you guys to see if it's something that we want to pursue for that early application. There are, current law states that with the Dropbox, it has to be continually recorded, and I don't know, I think our camera does not run constantly. I think it is as there's movement.
Right,
Do you
it's
know,
motion
Steve?
activated.
And so again, depending on the statute and our interpretation of the continually recorded. The other thing that current law states is that, you know, any agents, so if someone wants to drop off a ballot for someone else, they need to do it within the office so that it can be recorded and that sort of thing. So you're only supposed to drop your own ballot off in the box. It doesn't, what I read in the statute, and of course we'd want to consult the county attorney for further clarification, but it doesn't say anything about monitoring that, you know, about my concern being people could drop off and there would just be a sign, but, you know, would we need to monitor that or not? The statute doesn't say anything about it, just says that we need to have signage on it. So, there's a couple little things, that's current law. They have some other things proposed, which would be really restrictive, and if they go that route, I don't think we want to have a Dropbox at all, just because of the additional work and that would be involved. So again, just kind of bringing it up for you guys for discussion as to Dropboxes currently as it is, what's proposed, and that there's a grant available if we want to apply for that grant.
What are your wishes?
By applying to the grant, does it commit us to anything going forward?
So I did reach out to find out for sure, but the grant is a reimbursable grant. So we're not gonna get any money unless we spend money. So my thought being that we can apply, and if we don't spend any money, you know, we just have to probably do some paperwork just stating that we aren't spending anything.
And to me, that makes sense, as long as it doesn't commit us to anything going forward, because we know that this certainly is a situation that's in flux right now. So your comment about just evaluating in the future whether or not it's even worth having a Dropbox or not. So, and maybe not germane, but what's the history? How long? And the only one we got is the one right outside the law enforcement entrance. Have we had that for years?
No,
I didn't
the
think
history
so.
of the lockbox came into effect in COVID-19.
Yeah.
We put that in
Yeah.
early in 2020 because court services were closed. They were getting documents coming in quite routinely, and people pay their taxes, drop off their tax payments. That's why we put that out there, because we're pretty well closed up for a while too. So,
And was that part of the Governor's Emergency Act?
it was our choice to put it up,
Our
just
choice.
to help the people, make sure we do. Other counties were doing it on their own, and we decided to put one here, and it worked quite well.
Yes.
A lot of business, and it's still being used today. People are still dropping, I believe, their taxes off in it and that type of thing, and it's checked every day by maintenance staff. I get some weird things
And going
yesterday,
forward,
somebody
we
just put a
continue to
check
use
in
it
their
for that.
tax statement up on top of the box and walked away.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. Wow, that's scary. We would still use it for that purpose, irregardless whether it was used for voting or not.
correct.
The Dropbox, it'd just be the courthouse Dropbox, so. Yeah, I think it makes sense to go ahead and apply for this grant, so we've got it if we need it, but we're not committed to anything until we find out what the new rules are, so.
We've talked to Bill Folger, and we estimate that the cost we would need would be between probably $8,000 and $10,000. Obviously, our box is still satisfactory, but he's talking about these have to be on full time. He's talking about using 3 cameras, one down, one to the side, and one straight down. So that way you can monitor number of ballots, that type of thing. You can see the person if we were to do that. The issues is, as Amanda's alluding to, and I put these in your packet, are what the Senate and the House proposed bills are.
I've read through
making
those.
this very, very restrictive.
Yep.
And I've had conversation with other county administrators around, and if these go through, many of those will not have drop boxes.
Yep.
One one that's particularly concerning is as Amanda mentioned, the idea of that if someone were to drop off another ballot in it that wasn't theirs,
Yeah.
and that's some sort of a violation of the law, how is that rectified through
Yeah.
the courts or law enforcement if someone does that, if they're charged or what? And then there's a whole nother part of this, it's videoing, but it's not really germane to the Dropbox. It's having video cameras involving your ballot boards that are reviewing ballots that are problematic. And there's information here that there has to be live streaming of the ballot board to be able to see all the action that's going on, have access to it within 4 feet of the table of the people who are doing the ballots. And so there's some concerning potential, statutory changes coming through here that in some cases should be concerning.
Yep.
What was trying to happen, but election security was very much in the forefront after the 2020 election. Whatever feelings are on that, whether there was fraud or not, it was proved there was not, widespread election fraud. Minnesota is a very secure state for working with elections, getting ballot information in. Everything is put right into the state's computer. We don't do anything on any local computers, so we don't have, none of that is happening, but it's very strange. So I think we'll have to monitor this legislation closely before we make a full decision this, and we'll know by the 23rd of May. However, we would have missed the time for the application, so I agree with Amanda, we should still apply for it, what we're gonna do, and see what happens after the 23rd, and if something changes, we'll just have to take that as it comes.
And as I read it, it looks like it goes up to 15,000 max, and it doesn't require any county match at all. So,
Correct.
Just we'll ask for the whole 15,000 right away.
well, but like Amanda said, it's reimbursement.
I understand, but just, if you gotta ask for something.
Yep.
Just be put on the list and, okay, 15,000 then.
Yep, the application is pretty short, and you just have to put some estimated costs. Like it has a section for the Dropbox, which we already have the Dropbox, so it would just be for like monitoring and that sort of thing.
And storage to keep it for
Yeah, which,
years or whatever.
22 months, according to the proposed legislative language here that we'd have to store it for. That's on page 10 in the first handout I gave you on the Senate side of it.
You
We'd
talked
have to
about
get
not,
additional hard drive
Yes,
space.
Yes, that's part of the cost that Bill is looking
Then
at.
the resources we'd have to put in reviewing this and all that too, potentially. And who's gonna pay for that? That would be county expense then.
Correct.
I
Who's
don't know.
gonna wanna review that?
Right. And to hold this footage that long and stuff, I don't know. It's concerning.
but
we do only have, Pipestone and Edgerton have a polling place. All the other precincts are mail ballots, so
So we're
that's a
gonna need a Dropbox
consideration with
somewhere.
the Dropbox where does, don't know for sure, again, it's, the Dropbox is a nice, option, but is it needed, that sort of thing. It definitely was needed during COVID and was utilized, so, yeah, but,
We had a perfectly good system of absentee ballot working. People would bring their ballots in, or they would vote in the auditor's office, and it's a no excuse absentee balloting anyway, correct? So
Yep.
people could bring their ballot and do it as we did before. I mean, people did that fine, and we have all but 3 of our precincts are mail ballot, right? So City of Pipestone, City of Edgerton are in person, and every other precinct in the county is mail balloting anyway. So that they mail it in, or they could drop it off themselves, and they just have to come in the office and you'd welcome them.
yep,
If you drop it off yourself, it doesn't get lost in the mail.
exactly.
I have not had good mail service lately, so.
But back to this issue though, so at this point, I will move that we do go ahead and approve Amanda to apply for this grant for the full 15,000. It doesn't require a match, and it doesn't commit us to do anything moving forward. Before we'd actually spend any money on this, I certainly would like to take an in-depth look at getting more involved. But at this point, no harm to go ahead and at least apply for the grant. So I would move that we do apply for the grant.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Alright, and I will follow up with Kyle on the other question you had. See
Yep.
if it's been answered today.
Sounds great, thank you.
Well, I think Joyce might be a very good resource.
Yeah,
as
she
well.
is out of the office today, and she's actually, had kind of gone over
Yeah.
with me with that when it first came in, and I just didn't make good notes, so.
I can kind of see it like, if somebody's got a storage building or something like that, they need I can understand why there's that nuance in it, so.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Amanda.
Ken?
Next up, we have Elizabeth Hoffman with Plum Creek.
Yeah.
Morning.
Morning.
And she brought support with her too.
I did. I have a couple of our area librarians with me too. So Dina is joining us from Edgerton. I'm sure most of you know who your area
Yes, we do.
librarians are.
Yes,
So
we
we have
Thank you.
Jody here from Pipestone and Dina from Edgerton. So, and I wanted to start with giving you just, thank you for letting me come and talk with you all today. I know many of you are very familiar with libraries and have probably used the libraries here in the community quite a bit. But I just wanted to give you a brief overview of Plum Creek and let you know some of the things that we have going on right now. So Plum Creek is a federated library system. Here in Minnesota, we have two types of library systems. We have federated and consolidated. Federated means that we have a group of member libraries that we support through different services, and we coordinate those services from our offices in Worthington. And here on the front of our handout, we have some of the listed services that we offer as a library system. Our digital resources include that Libby app that you can download audiobooks and ebooks. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. It's a great way to do that. We also have quite a few databases available. And interlibrary loan is when we borrow materials from other parts of the state that come in, not from here in Plum Creek. And then our delivery service, which is exceptionally good here in the Plum Creek area. Our delivery service goes out twice a week to all of our member libraries and several schools. We bring materials from all over the area so that we can share collections between our libraries. During the pandemic, the delivery service in Plum Creek continued to operate almost the entire time. I believe they were off the road for a week during the pandemic. When we talk about service to our community, that is exceptional and above and beyond. I'm the new director. I got to come in 6 months ago and see this amazing delivery service happening. But one of the reasons I wanted to apply to be the director in Plum Creek is because I knew people living in this area, and they were telling me that they could get library books when no one else in the country could. We were supporting students and families and entertainment needs when people were in lockdown. So this is something that they do exceptionally well. All of our member libraries do an exceptional job of supporting the communities. We also do a lot of advocacy, and one of the things that we have been increasing is our training to provide continuing ed resources for our member libraries so that they can learn what is coming up in libraries and how we can better serve our communities. We do technical support. We have an IT guy who comes out to many of our member libraries and supports them. We have an integrated library catalog. So in the old days, you might have gone into the library and pulled out the card catalog. We do that all online now, and that is a big part of what we do. It also tracks your circulation and those kinds of things too. So all of those great numbers you get on your annual library report, that's where it comes from. And then our programming, which is primarily through the legacy funding, and we have quite a wide range of programming that we offer through that funding. It comes through Plum Creek. All the legacy funding for libraries comes through Plum Creek, and then our legacy coordinator passes that through onto our member libraries. So we have in-person programming, book clubs, performances. It's April right now, which is National Poetry Month, so we have some poetry walks going on so people can be outside enjoying the really windy days that we've been having lately. But some of those things that we support around here. And then on the back side, this will give you kind of an overview of what we do with those resources and how we do all of that and some of those numbers. So our 9-county area, how many people we have in our area that we support. And then at the very bottom, that's our funding to libraries and where that comes from. So like I said, we have that Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, the Legacy Fund that we provide programming with. We have our Regional Library Telecommunication Aid that provides a good portion of the internet access that you get in libraries, along with federal E-rate. Then we also get to use that money to support our digital collections, and right now we're doing some upgrades on our catalog. So if you log into our catalog right now, it looks a little dated, but we are hoping to launch a new, what we call a discovery layer in September. That's a big project we have going on right now, and it's going to make our catalog look more like you're shopping on Amazon or something like that. So you can go in and it's going to suggest what you may want to read next, and it's going to aggregate all of your results into one list. So when you search Harry Potter, instead of having to scroll through that big long list to find the right copy of Harry Potter, it's going to make it really easy to see what versions we have in. So that's one of our big projects that we're doing right now with that federal fund, with the RLTA, and then also with the ARPA grant funding, because the setup with that we're going to pay for with some of that ARPA grant funding. And then some of the other big projects we've had going on with that grant funding, we've set up, again, some more training opportunities for our member libraries and additional digital resources. So that's what we've been doing as a large system, but like I said, you have some exceptional libraries here in Pipestone, and we have some of our member library directors here to tell you a little bit about what they're doing. So Dina, do you want to start?
Sure, I do have handouts if anyone would like those.
Sure. There's something special going on in the library tonight at 7 o'clock, so you're all invited.
Yeah, you're all invited. We'll be having a program at the library tonight, and we've been doing a lot of programs lately, which is great. So what I'm handing out now is our 2021 annual report. And in there, it just outlines everything that we did in Edgerton in 2021. And we really didn't start back into programming until halfway through the year. And so we did actually still end up with a lot of programs, even though we didn't start back until about July with programming. And so first of all, I just want to thank you all for all of your support of our local libraries. It means a lot to us to know that you're here to support us and to encourage us. And if you look on the statistics on page 6, I can point out why it really is important to our area. If you look at the circulation statistics that we have on there, out of 70,000 items circulated in Edgerton in 2021, you'll notice that over 46,000 of those were juvenile, were for children. These are the parents that are coming in, checking out stacks of books to read to their young children. This is the first grader, second grader learning to read, coming out in, picking out beginning readers. These are our older kids coming in and reading books even through the summer and through the school year. So a large portion of our books are going straight to our future generations. So it's I think an important resource to our communities to be able to invest in that future and invest in the children. And then also, of course, our adult circulation. A lot of these are retired folks, older people that this is their form of entertainment. And there's a lot of good use out of this. So I just want to point out the main reason that we're here is to benefit the community and to enrich the community. We have families that come in simply to play in our environment. We have their kids come in and run off some energy in the winter. So we provide a lot of different resources, a lot of different outlets, programming for people throughout the year, and a lot more than simply books, but of course books is a big part of it. We have some big projects going on at Edgerton as well. We did receive a few grants, so we're updating our entire juvenile nonfiction with one grant. We're doing a lot of programming with another grant. So a lot of big things going on this year. So I'm excited to see how huge our annual report is next year with all the different programming that we have provided. So thank you again for all of your support.
Thank you.
Would you like me to step out of the way here, Jody, and you can talk a little bit about Pipestone?
All right, I am Jody from Pipestone and Minders Library. We're both from Pipestone. But Dina brought the show. I'll do the tell, I guess. I didn't bring stats for you, but what I can tell you is that one of the things we have been working on and is really important for us is to bring our services to where our people are at. So we are trying really hard to meet our population where they are. We have, last year we did pop-up story time in all of the county parks so that every community would have access to story time. We will continue that this year. We are also in the middle of a Spanish story time and Spanish connection project that we are working on. So that we can connect all of our communities rather than just the traditional, 10 o'clock in the morning or 10:30 in the morning, families that don't work during the day. And so we're trying to reach out and meet our public where they are at. And so that's very important for us. We're doing this summer a Stories on the Square. We thought that might be a way to catch people who typically can't make it out or don't make it out all the way to the library to still enjoy some of our programming and our library connection that way. So, yeah.
And did you have any questions for us on Plum Creek?
Any questions from the board?
Maybe just a few things of clarification, just for my own edification as well too. Let's touch on funding a little bit. So you said you've got federal funding, and you also have the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Now, Steve, the money that the county gives to the local libraries, is that state money that passes through us? I believe, if I remember right, that's not levy money.
No, that's levy.
That is levy money.
Yeah.
Okay.
They tell us what the amount is, and then we send it out, and then you've been generous enough in the past several years to increase that.
To add to that, I knew that we added to it, but I wasn't sure if it was all levy or if there was some that came from
Yeah,
the
there's
state.
county levy, and it's all county levy. It tells us basically what we have to provide.
Yep.
That's our statutory level.
And that's to our local libraries. And then as far as our financial support then to the Plum Creek
That's a
system.
direct appropriation. They send us a letter every year, what they're asking for us, and we provide that money to them.
Yep.
I believe last year, for this year, it was $32.50. Does that sound right?
That sounds right.
Okay.
Good, very good. So I know, obviously in the recent discussion we've had in the community about some of the current uncertainty of the future of our local structure, just where we're at. And I think it's worth pointing out, again, the status of our local library membership in the Plum Creek system as well too. Could you elaborate on that if indeed we were to lose our public library, the school, I understand, would not be eligible for support through Plum Creek?
So what we offer to schools is a contracted service. We have 12 schools that are currently participating in the contracted service that we offer. That does not include the full range of Plum Creek services that we offer. It includes delivery for 9 months, and also access to that integrated library software, that catalog that we have, so that they can track their circulation and then their materials as well. It does give them access to all of the materials within Plum Creek, and the school librarian can also place interlibrary loan requests. They need to go through the school staff member who manages the library in order to do that. But they can place those to get materials from throughout Minnesota. It does not include our digital resources. So again, those audiobooks and the ebooks that have been so popular for our members. That's a licensing thing where we cannot make that available through schools. It does not give access to the databases. Again, that's licensing, and we can't make that exception. Also, our agreement states that schools have access to print materials through delivery. They can contact a library directly and request materials that are non-print, movies, audiobooks, those kinds of things, but they can't place the request the same way that a public library can.
So it would be a fair statement to say that if the existing arrangement no longer continued moving forward, it certainly would have an impact on our students' ability to access materials.
Yes. And then we also offer hotspots available, and I know that that's something that here in Pipestone we've been working on it, but we have hotspots so people have internet access at home. Should the schools shut down, then they're able to still do their homework. That's something we can only offer through the public libraries as well.
Yep.
So that kind of technology.
Okay, thank you. I thought that I understood that, but I think it's nice just to clarify that as well. So thank you for that.
Also legacy funding.
Right. Any of that funding that comes from the state or federal level, all of those are only available to public libraries. We can only make legacy funding available to public libraries by the state's guidelines, and that's also true of that RLTA state funding.
Another area too, I know we've talked about before, I know we talked the status of libraries. Now, the library that is in Jasper, now that is supported through both the Edgerton and the Pipestone library. Is that how we're supporting the Jasper library? How does that work?
Jasper's independent.
They're not affiliated at all. They don't. Okay. I thought they'd gotten some support from us at one time.
Not financial. We have helped them, but not.
Loaning books and things like that, yes. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for? Not?
I'd just like to thank you guys for the great work that you do.
Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
and presenting today.
Well, thank you very
I
much.
do have one more question. Where are we at with the, where are you at with working with the school and the city and all, I mean, do we know yet how that's gonna shake out, or?
I don't think we know yet how that's going. We haven't.
So they just had a negotiation meeting last Thursday. That was the third negotiation meeting, and yeah, they're just moving forward on back and forth, and I don't know where that will land. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy, wanna do the personnel quick?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning, Kathy.
A few things for the board this morning. You met Seth Hum this morning. He was our other new full-time jailer dispatcher that was hired, so I just wanted to announce that for the record. He started on April 19th, 2022 as a full-time jailer dispatcher, along with Corey Hakula as our other new one that was announced at the last board meeting. My next item is the county recorder update. So we did have 7 applicants for the county recorder position, and the personnel committee did interviews last week. We did 2 sets of interviews, and our recommendation as a committee for the recorder appointment is Emily Vreeman. And we would like to hire her on step B of the pay plan. And she is able to start as of May 31st, assuming the board does approve her appointment.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Carried.
Kathy, step B, what was the job classification under step B? I didn't.
C41 step B.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Well, thank you for your diligent work on that. It's never easy finding good workers. so thank you for your
Yep, we had some good candidates, so it was a tough decision,
yeah.
but
Tough decision. Hopefully we made the right one.
Oh, I'm sure of it.
And then one more item, and it's not really an action item today, but I just wanted to make you guys aware that Renee Shook, she has been here for 4 years now, and there's a 4-year VSO appointment. She started April 17, 2018. I've been looking into if we passed a resolution in the past, so our last 2 VSOs, we had Brian Dowdy and Mark Hall, and I don't think they finished their first term. So I have to do a little digging further back on whether or not we need a resolution for that. I did hand out the VSO statute, and per that statute, it looks like it's an automatic renewal unless the board chooses to not renew, which we would have had to do a 90-day notice period for that. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of that Renee did finish her initial first 4-year appointment, and I may be coming to the board at the next board meeting if we need to pass a resolution related to her reappointment. So
her 4th anniversary has come and passed, or is coming up?
yeah,
soon?
it was on April 17th.
Okay. And isn't there a time frame on the automatic renewal? Has it not automatically renewed by itself, or do we need to take action on it?
It has, but I just don't know if we need official action from the board for basically housekeeping purposes. So I just want to look into that a little more, but I wanted to make you guys aware that her appointment period was April 17th for her anniversary date.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is the public hearing on redistricting. You can't start until 10, right?
Correct.
We'll just take a 10-minute break.
Okay.
Morning, man.
Okay, we'll reconvene, and Kyle, you wanna come up and go through the statute a little bit? Or ordinance, I should say.
Ordinance? Sure. It's one of them that doesn't get looked at very much. But I sent it to Steve. Steve printed out copies. What you got in front of you is a copy of our solid waste fee ordinance that was adopted in '91 that lays out who gets assessed the $36 solid waste assessment. And I got Chris here along with Amanda as far as they're the ones that basically put it together and determine who gets assessed what based on the ordinance. Like I said, it was adopted in '91. We haven't changed it since. But kind of the rule of thumb is every dwelling out throughout the county is assessed a $36 solid waste assessment fee in addition to the commercial businesses, which are assessed multiple assessments. The solid waste assessment generates about $200,000 per year that's received for solid waste related expenditures. It covers our recycling contract and other solid waste expenses like the hazardous waste building. So that's just a quick summary. It's talking with Joyce in the past. There's codes in here that are probably not relevant any longer. And it's something that the assessor's office needs to almost manually go through and determine whether or not there's a solid waste assessment needed or not per property. So I don't know if Chris has anything more that she wants to say, or if you have questions on the ordinance.
Well, I guess my question was earlier, it was recommended that we approve a solid waste assessment abatement for a storage building. And I was just questioning whether that was proper. And I guess I'd.
Come on, Chris, can you come up, please?
With that particular parcel, what happened is it was previously commercial, and then I don't know if it was 2 or 3 years ago, Lene and her husband bought it, and it went residential. Well, because it was commercial, it had the solid waste fee on it, and that's something we need to maintain manually. And that wasn't done at that time. And then when Lene brought it to our attention is when we did the abatement.
So it was because it was a higher rate, or? I mean,
Commercial's based on value, so it had, I don't know,
I believe it was $54.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was 1.5 units.
Right.
Yep.
So the
should be
commercial,
54.
yeah, market value between $1 and $100 is 1.5.
Okay,
So it was properly assessed previously.
It was, yeah.
okay. But I mean, would there be any assessment then going forward?
No, because it's residential and it's just a storage unit, or storage building, I should say. It does not get the solid waste.
But don't other residential places have?
Houses, yes, if they're being inhabited. That's been our policy. If they're inhabited, it's a house, they get the solid waste. If it's just a,
So a vacant house would not?
right.
And that's how it's being handled countywide?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Just to kind of, I mean, some counties have looked at this and have updated their ordinances, where I know Murray County has included feedlots as another type of structure that would be assessed. Other counties have considered wind towers, you know, as being a waste generator. Should they or should they not be assessed? So it's something, if you want or feel that it's needed, that the Solid Waste Committee would look at this and determine, you know, changes. It's something we could work on in the future.
I guess, yeah, my question, just thinking out loud, was, I mean, even a storage facility occasionally generates garbage.
Correct, but they would be paying that on their residents, where if it's a commercial rental unit, they would be paying the commercial solid waste assessment fee. So that would be the reason that commercial would be assessed, where residential would already be paying that through their household.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the second to last page under the service fee billing guidelines, number 6. Agricultural properties with no house but improved with other usable structures shall be exempt from this fee. So it could probably fall under that. I don't know where it's located, if it's out in the country or is it in town or?
No, it's in town. It's a block from my store.
Would you read that again, Del?
Number 6. Right there.
Okay. So then, do I understand that correctly then, so if you've got a hog confinement building, is that or is that not assessed?
It is not.
Okay.
Kind of like number 6, where if you had a machine shed or a bin site, those are not being assessed currently either.
An outbuilding, you've got
Right.
a farmstead, so they're already paying it for the house, because that's a dwelling unit.
Yep.
But their outbuildings are not. But if you've got a separate standalone hog confinement, that is still exempt, that's not charged in the solid waste.
Right.
Okay. But you said, so if you were to take a look at the ordinance, like you said, wind towers and other things, that's something you might have to reevaluate.
Possibly, I mean, it's something that we could consider, but right now, I guess I don't see a urgent need to change anything drastically, but it's something that could be considered, and I think through discussions with the assessors, our office and the, the commissioner board, I think it would be, maybe worthwhile, maybe looking at some other county ordinances to see how they vary from county to county.
I guess I just wanted to make sure we were treating everyone the same, and it seems like we are. And we do have one of the lower solid waste fees around.
Right. Yeah, I think probably on an average, they're probably getting closer to $50 on a per county basis, where we're at 36.
And I would say we offer more for that than a lot of the other counties where we'll take hazardous waste at no cost. Or no additional cost.
The way everything's going up, maybe we should look at raising just a little instead of waiting and make a big increase.
Currently I did a 5-year projected budget as far as our reserve fund within solid waste. And in about 5 years, it'll deplete down to, I think we're around 500,000 currently, where it'll be getting down to about 100,000 in a 5-year period. So So if we keep at the current spending rate that we're at, it will go down fairly quickly. I did also include in that projection, about a 20,000 increase in our solid waste, or our recycling fee that will be coming up for renewal in another year. So there are gonna be things like that that are gonna come up where it'll likely go up too.
Seems like we just started that now.
We did, 5 years goes quick.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Amanda. Maine.
All right, so we are now at our deadline here to do our redistricting meeting and adoption of the plan.
Chairman, should we open the public hearing?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I move to open a public hearing.
Support that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I'll start.
All right, so we have had previous discussions in the past, and so now we are kind of gonna follow through and adopt the plan. We are recommending no changes based on the population and how everything is spread out in the county. It's just not feasible to try to, we aren't able to get it within the guidelines that we would like to have them, but so there, again, no changes. And we have a resolution that kind of describes our districts. It has the map for the commissioner districts attached.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I may add, just to let everyone know and those listening that we have complied with the requirements of the state and the statutes by having our redistricting public meetings. We held that on March 14th. At other meetings, we provided our notice, our 3-week notice in the newspapers that is required by law, so we're following the laws as set up. As Amanda mentioned, we are just in a kind of a conundrum right now to actually make population changes just to how our population in the county is, pretty much how it's laid out, where our people are right now. Jermaine, any questions or comments you might have on it?
No, sometimes when you can't do anything, you just don't do anything. That's the best way to do it, right?
But again, to reiterate, I understand that we're still in compliance because there's the exceptions, so we qualify under the exceptions, so everything's fine. Do we need to take specific action on this? Are you looking for a motion to
approve the resolution?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve this resolution 59-19-22.
Support that.
Actually, it's the 59-21-22.
Yeah, 59-21-22.
Excuse me.
There.
59-21-22.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We're out of the closed session, or open session.
Were we in compliance there because we did that motion in the closed session? Do we need to do it in the open session?
It wasn't a closed session, it was just a public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks.
That was easy.
And Jermaine. Thank you.
And this official publication will be printed in both the Edgerton and Pipestone papers this week.
Thanks, Steve.
So we're in compliance. We can hopefully put that to bed for 10 years.
Okay. Dallas, are you ready to go with reports?
I sure am.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jermaine.
See y'all. Not that I don't want to hear Dallas's reports.
It's riveting.
I can imagine.
Okay, committee reports for March. 1 through 3, I went to the AMC Legislative Conference up in the cities. Friday night was the Minnesota Rural Counties meeting. Second day was a general session. We were supposed to be spoken to by the bigwigs in state, but they went to Duluth. The president showed up in Duluth, and he was more important than us, so they went all to Duluth. The Capitol dinner was there with tours. The House people were still on Zoom, so the Capitol was echoed. It was very nice. We had a nice time rediscovering the Capitol. We have a beautiful Capitol. They redid it, 10 years ago, and it did a nice. And we did have a meeting with Senator Weber, State Senator Weber. Just about made us miss the bus back home, but we made it. So. And the legislative reception that night was similarly not well attended because nobody was around. So we were all there. But last day was a public policy meeting. I'm on the safety part. And JJAC, a juvenile Justice Juvenile Activity Center, got a report on that. And that was very good for me to hear. The Dakota County Sheriff also had a presentation, and struck me on that one was that 50% of the people that they bring into their office are mentally ill or chemically dependent. That's why we're going to need this medication thing for us too. You know, we aren't immune from that. They average 7 to 9 days in a health lockup. 74% come back. Costs $240 a day to host them. But they're building a brand new one with pods, and they're spending a ton of money to do that. But he said we have to, just have to take care of people. March 8 was a regular meeting. March 14, a redistricting meeting. And I also went to the library meeting. It was the same time. And talks to resume, but they're not hopeful. And that was reiterated by one of the members at our Plum Creek board. March 22 was a regular meeting, hospital meeting. March 24th was crime health. March 28th was RMEB. And looking at Solar Gardens production tax revenue, they're trying to see what's going on. The production tax revenue from the windmills is down. Murray County was down 34%. And everybody wanted to know why. And basically it boils down to that the transmission lines are full. There's so many windmills in this area that they can only pump so much through those lines, and they're running the newer, more efficient towers first. So the old ones in Murray County and northern Pipestone County, those are the ones they turn on last because they can't get rid of the juice.
Dallas, it might also have some impact as far as their contracts for their power purchase too.
Correct. And the contracts are getting lower. Some of the early contracts were paid more. Yeah. But that's my report.
Dan.
On March 1st, then, we met with our staff down at Worthington with SMOC. We've hired a consultant, Joelle Huft, and she is out of Golden Valley, helping us with our executive director search. As you know, I've reported before that Neil Steffel is retired. So she met with the staff down there, and she's doing a very in-depth survey, trying to take a look at what the needs and so forth are before we actually go out through the hiring process. So we're working on that. Then on the 2nd, we had our Explore Southwest Minnesota meeting. This has been somewhat idle through COVID, getting some traction, getting back going again. In fact, Chris, if you add to it as well too, we did hire, well, I shouldn't say hire, we have reorganized now, and the chairperson then now is being very active, getting things growing again. So
with coordination through SRDC, they're doing a contract with them, like Casey Jones Trail Committee.
Yep.
And so they're gonna organize the meetings and help cover all the gaps there. So I guess I can elaborate on that more tomorrow. I'm gonna meet as part of the rebranding committee. I joined a subcommittee on that too. There's a lot of money spent right before COVID with this group, Malley, out of Nebraska, to the tune of around $9,000. And after COVID, and we finally come to meet, we had these nice little pamphlets of a logo that stinks, to be honest with you. It looks like a big arrow pointing to go to South Dakota. And that's all we got, $9,000. We didn't get any digital anything with it. When we called to ask about the money that was left over, about $200. Oh no, you guys spent that. Yeah, okay, so that's all we got. So with SRDC, we're gonna redo the brand again, and because even the slogan they put was the one for the like the West Central or whatever, the same exact slogan that another Explorer group is using. So spent $9,000 for these guys to not even do their homework and give us a very poor quality product. So
now we contract with SRDC, and so Jessica Whaley, with her graphic design and so forth, she's going to be spearheading that. So then on the 9th, we had our friends at Casey Jones meeting, and again part of that same work as far as working on grants and with the legislative process going on now, contacting Senator Weber, Representative Schumacher, getting support for our bonding bill. I know we talked before about how we've been reclassified as a secondary trail instead of a primary trail, so you guys all kind of understand what's going on with that. On the 10th, then I had my coalition meeting then with the school, the Anti-Alcohol Coalition, then with Ashley Gustafson. Her STARS students are very active yet. We did get a trailer bought. I don't know if we talked about that before. We used some of our grant money then to buy a trailer for the robotics team. Some of the other people are using that for their storage and transportation of their equipment. It's not just robotics. There's a couple other ones as well too. Similar to what the band has got for their equipment. Then on the 11th, we had a special educational meeting then with Prime West. I think you guys had participated in that as well too. The 14th, we had a redistricting meeting. On the 16th then, Southwest Health and Human Services. One of the issues of working there with our personnel committee, we have got 4 of our exempt employees that are requesting additional payment because of the additional hours and time they put in through COVID. And they were invited to come talk specifically to the personnel committee, and they opted, instead of doing that, to go directly from the personnel committee to the full board. So they did come to the full board Wednesday, and it was tabled. Some serious concerns there. One of the things that I wasn't even aware of at the time, through COVID, they were paid, even though they're exempt, they were paid on-call time. I don't quite understand how that would work, but in any case, they're asking for additional, and they don't realize, in fact, we're gonna have another meeting Monday with the personnel committee with them. Yep, Rick just called me this morning. And because of the union scrutiny, if we were to do that, it would set a precedent that would be very, very difficult for us to be able to balance. So we'll see how that works out. Then on the 17th, one of the items I had was this CERTS, this clean energy program through Rural Minnesota Energy Board. This one happened to be on electric vehicles. We have lunch and learns every month on those. The 21st, then we had our full board meeting of SMOC down at Worthington. Had introduced then Joelle to the full board and explained part of where the survey results are that she's got. In addition to this, our financial person who'd been with us for 5 years then, he had tendered his resignation. In fact, his last day will be the end of this month. So that leaves us somewhat in a quandary now with both our executive director and our financial person gone at the same time. But we are moving forward. We've got some plans. In fact, at tonight's meeting, I think we're going to be appointing, even though we've got this contractor that's doing work for us, this Joelle, she is on a 20-hour basis, and it's just, it's too much to ask of her to be our local ED as well too. She's concentrating on doing a coordinated search. So we've got some existing personnel, and I think that tonight we'll probably be making some action as far as moving one of those up into a temporary ED position as we move forward with the search process. One of the things, though, that we've already learned very loud and clear is that UCAP and UCAP actually was formed back 7 years ago, because when I first joined that board 7 years ago was the proposal from our executive director that we merge with Heartland and Western Area. There was 4 entities that were approached. 2 of them did merge, and that is what formed UCAP. And they have been very aggressive, and they're interested in absorbing us now at this point. But if we were to do that, we'd lose our autonomy down there. It would be very, very detrimental to, especially to our Head Start program. So in our existing staff members, we've got very good staff down there that we want to support, maintain, and the work they're doing for the community. So there really is no support for that concept of merging with UCAP. We might have to do some temporary stuff as far as the financial part of it. EEO is the State Department Economic Opportunity Advisory. Is that the title? EEO, what they stand for. But in any case, they are very supportive of us, and we have quarterly reports, obviously, when you're dealing with state and federal money that have to be filed timely. So because of that, it's a little bit of a strain right now, but we've got a plan in place for that. So I think we're making progress. So that was SMOC on the 21st. Then on the 24th, then we had our Prime Health informational meeting as well. I guess I mentioned that on the 11th wasn't the Prime Health. The 11th was the response to our lawsuit against Department of Health and Human Services. Was the 11th? The 24th was our informational meeting. I guess in regards to that, last year we talked a little bit about where we're at with that suit. We really don't know a great deal of details.
We really don't know a lot.
And like with anything, once there's actually been litigation started, everybody clams up and nobody can talk about anything. So we don't really know where we're at with that. Then on the 28th, then we had our Solid Waste Commission. Luke, I'll leave that for you. We also had our Rural Minnesota Energy Board and talking about what Dallas already reported on as far as transmission lines. On the 29th, we had a opioid training here. In fact, Terry Jansen from Southwest Health, from SMOC Opportunity Council came here and she did a presentation. It was well attended. And she had a lot of good information, stuff I know you guys have heard before too, as far as what's going on with the opioid epidemic. And that concludes my report for the month of March.
Okay. Steve, do we wait for Weber now?
I've got Zoom up, so I don't see him yet, so
okay.
I think we can continue till he comes up here.
Go ahead, Luke.
I might need more than 5 minutes.
Oh, we can wait then. That's fine. He should be here any minute, I would think. My kind of ad hoc system I've got here.
Both those articles about Weber restructuring. I would want to give both positive articles. Interrupt you and dive into what you said though, other than talking about that. Thank you.
ID followed by
No, that wasn't in there, but just talked about the importance of it, about how like it's the busiest road in the corridor and stuff like that. So,
And I see.
Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue.
It's good to see that.
You are in the meeting now. There are 3 participants in the meeting. You are muted. You can mute or unmute yourself by pressing *6. You are unmuted.
voice, Joe. Joe's on the road.
Good morning, Joe. Can you hear us? You're muted. Joe, you're on mute.
So are you with Steve, I think.
No.
I can hear you, and you couldn't hear me.
Good morning. Where are you at?
Heading up to St. Paul at the moment.
Ah.
Oh, that's how schedules are like these days, I guess. It's, you can only miss by a few points here and there on everything, so.
I'll just pan around here with my camera so you can see everybody. Commissioner Johnson, Hollingsworth, Chairman Nath is there. Commissioner Wildermuth and Roskamp over on the end there. And I'm Steve, the administrator.
All right.
And in the background, we've got a member of the media, Kyle Kufal, Kyle Creer, and our HR coordinator, Kathy Feste's in the back here. So that's who's in the room right now, sir.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you for having me this morning.
You're welcome. There's a better way to do this, but.
So, what have you got on the agenda today?
Basically, we'd like to hear from you a little bit about a legislative update from your perspectives, how things are going, what action items and exciting things are happening, or maybe not so exciting, and then be able to take some questions and comments from the board members and any of the department heads that are here, as long as your time permits.
Yes, that should work well, and I have until just about 11, then session kicks in, and I gotta be in for that. So we've got a little bit of time here, but as far as legislative update on things, we're in the supplemental budget process right now. So one thing to always clarify, and I know you all get this, but the state runs on a 2-year budget cycle for things, and we passed the budget last year, and so no matter what happens this year, operations for state governing won't be shutting down or anything like that. That's for whatever reason, because of all the talk about the stalemate and the surplus and the size of some of these supplemental budgets. Sometimes the public perception has been that I found that they think that we have an actual budget to pass this year, and we don't with that. What we do know is if we don't do anything, there is about $140 million that from federal disaster money from last year that the governor will be able to allocate on his own if the legislature adjourns before they allocate that money otherwise. And beyond that, everything else would stay in the coffers, which is nearing about $10 billion now. I know we had a little bit of a drop in March, or actually in February. After the February forecast came out, the next monthly updated forecast came in about $600 million shy of what they were expecting. So that caused you to kind of reconsider what the forecast was offering there. But in March, it came back even stronger, made up for February's loss, and came back even stronger there. I think there's concerns overall on just the state of inflation, the state of getting products, that this is a sustainable surplus, that we know that about 3 to 4 billion of that is one-time federal money, one from school enrollment being down there, and so not as much money going out that way. And then because of some of the emergency powers that the emergency declarations that the governor's had over the last 2 years, the federal money kicked in more funds as far as Medicaid goes, and so they're reimbursing at a much higher rate, which I know you are all aware of with that, and so we've been able to save some money there, but that's one-time money. When that shuts off, then the state will have to be picking up more of that again, and so there's about 3 or 4 billion that way, and then the rest has been increased sales and income taxes for things. But as we see other indicators within the market tightening, the housing interest rates for mortgages going up, that sort of thing, there is, I believe, room to pause on some of that and figure out just how much of that actually is is one time and how much is sustainable, ongoing, and structural increases. And so I'm sure will continue to be a conversation throughout the rest of the session. So we're going through the budget process now. The Senate has a very different approach to the House as far as budgeting, and the governor is kind of I want all of this to get done. So you guys figure it out and I'll sign it is kind of the impression I'm getting. And of course, behind closed doors, I'm sure he's a little bit more, has more particular positions on things, but at least publicly, he's saying he just get it done, and whatever we get in front of him, he's going to be interested in supporting. And so really it comes down to that. The Senate's taking more of a tax restructuring approach to things, and that sort of thing. The House is basically they've spent the entire on new programs and new spending within the regular target. So it does look more like a budget that you'd see in the regular budget year for their supplemental things. And so we're going through the process now. We've been doing Ways and Means Committee hearings in the morning for the last 2 weeks since we got back from the Easter observance, and taking those bills up there. And now we just started yesterday with the ag bill and the housing bill, getting some of those bills through so they can get to conference committee. And so working on that process overall and getting that worked out. We did yesterday have the unemployment insurance bill pass off the floor. There were some pieces that were attached to it that so it wasn't just a clean unemployment insurance refund or replenishing bill with that. And I'm sure when Senator Weber was there to visit you, he explained some of how the state's being charged interest of $50,000 a day in order to not pay back this piece, and that job creators in the state are having to pay increases in their unemployment insurance starting this week because we didn't refill some of that loan that we took from the federal government early on during the pandemic for that. So that's been one of the bigger issues and one of the bigger sore points. The things that were attached included the worker, the hero pay piece, which would allow for about $1,500 in basically a one-time grant or tax credit for people who had worked at least 6 weeks during the pandemic in some kind of frontline setting, whether it be full-time firefighters or nurses or law enforcement. And so that's what they had attached to that, and the Senate's been arguing that that's a separate issue, and the House has been arguing that we should combine the issues, so we just get it all done at once. And if businesses are going to benefit from the unemployment insurance piece, then the workers should benefit too from that. And so we've seen kind of a bog down in the overall process because of that. I think once that issue gets resolved, we're going to see things move a little bit faster and get some more things done. But until that piece is resolved, there's, every session there's always one thing that kind of holds up everything else, and this is it for this one. And so now it's in conference committee, and that'll be negotiated out on how we will overall address that. Otherwise, the next biggest thing is the bonding bill. We haven't seen the bonding bill yet overall for what the House is proposing there. We expect it to be a little bit more than what we have seen over the last 10 years as far as the bonding year type of proposals and the overall size of the bill, just based off of what we passed for budget resolutions and what the target is for the committee on their debt service piece with that. And so we're just focusing on the other budget bills until that one comes forward. And I do expect that it will be pretty heavy with PFA and those sorts of projects, just given kind of the dynamics of the session overall anyway, and the need that's out there, and just how the committee has approached some of their hearings. That I just have an inclination that that's going to be a big part of the discussion this year. So beyond that, it's kind of a wait and see on just overall who ends up moving and when they end up moving on some of these things. There was some rumor over the weekend that the House was going to kind of give in on some of their demands with the unemployment piece and try to pass that off the floor just before the governor gave a state of the state, because the governor was making some comments last week about how the legislature isn't doing anything, and that upset the speaker, and so she was going to have a little bit of retribution for him on that. That didn't come to fruition, probably for the good. It's always better when cooler heads prevail on these things, and so that's so things like that could come up at any time and kind of change the dynamics of the session. But for what we have now, this is kind of what we have, and where we go from here will is still largely unknown for that. So I guess that's kind of the long and short, the best I can offer you for information right now.
Sounds good. Can we have a few questions from our commissioners? Would that be okay? Or comments?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Luke?
Yeah, thank you, Joe, for being with us today. This is Luke. I was just curious, what are the chances we can get that Highway 23 funding included in some House bill? I think it is in the Senate Omnibus bill currently, and it would sure be nice if we could get it into a House bill as well.
Yeah, and I know Senator Weber's been working on that one, or been able to get a little bit more traction for it, I guess, in the Senate than in the House. I know they have different approaches for how they're doing things on some of that. I'd say if we can get it in the Senate side, it's going to be a lot easier to get it in to the House and get them to agree to that. And so I've been talking to Senator Weber about that and how we can make sure that gets achieved. I guess it's just as likely as anything else getting passed at this point. There's not, when I've talked to other legislators about that project in particular, there's not any opposition or animosity or uneasy feelings about that project overall with that, which is always a good sign that, there's not anything like that may kind of push up against it. And so I'd say it's just as likely as any other project to get in there at this point.
That's good to hear. Also, I was curious, do you know why the House did, they're trying to get that $3 million annually for the emergency management baseline funding. And the House has always supported that in previous years, but yet this year they cut it back to like $1.5 million. Is that just kind of as a posturing tool to be used later, or do you see that support changing?
That would be my gut instinct on that. I know it came up in Ways and Means last week when that bill was in front, or the proposal was in front of us there on that. I don't remember exactly what the rationale was, but it does feel to me like it is a negotiating point. Why spend in this area when the other side may give a little more in order to get it, kind of thing. With that. So I think your instincts are right on that, on what's going on there, and that's too bad. And that's kind of what we've seen, what I've seen, especially over the last few years, is that kind of maneuvering where you don't even have even the stuff that should be simple to pass or simple to just accomplish because everyone agrees. Someone's going to want to get something for that, and so. That's kind of the culture we're in at the moment with that. But I would think that we'll be able to prevail on that in the end. I'm optimistic about it, at least. I don't think they're not arguing that it's absolutely not needed and it was an over request or anything like that. It's not that. I think, like you said, it's posturing.
Sure. And one last thing, do you think we can get a permanent fix for the local road wetland replacement program this year? You know, a number of years it's been underfunded, and it is a mandated program through the state, and it'd be nice to just come up with a permanent fix for that. Do you see that happening?
Yeah, especially when we have this kind of surplus. I mean, that's been not my idea, but if I was to run the entire state for this time all by myself, right now I've been advocating for, we have this historic surplus right now. We have the ability to do some historic things. We can either spread it out and do like we always do, and give a little bit to everyone, and then everyone talks about how it's not enough, or we focus on one or two or three big things and actually solve these issues for the next 50 years. And transportation, water, maybe it's education or housing or something for that, but just focus on those things and really, again, try to solve it for 50 years instead of doing this thing that gets us a couple years beyond. And in transportation with that, trying to find permanent solutions for some of these. This would have been a really good year this is a very good year to try and do that, and I hope that we're able to get something done with that provides a little bit more stability for your part and isn't as much of an unfunded mandate.
Thank you.
Chris, you have anything?
I don't have anything. Thanks, Joe.
Dallas?
Are we gonna be able to get anything to drop the taxes on Social Security? The Senate has.
I guess it depends on how persuasive the Senate is on the Social Security piece there. It's an ever-growing popular issue with the number of people who are collecting Social Security there, and it really is a double taxation with that. And we're one of just a few states, a shrinking number of states that do tax it that way. And so it's a proposal that definitely has merit with that. This would be a year to do it. I've carried that bill back in 2016, 2017. I know I had proposals that dealt with the Social Security income tax there, and would like to see that get done. And I know that's a big piece of what the Senate's trying to do with their restructuring of the tax system this year, and I do wish them luck on that. I think it's bipartisanly popular. It's going to be a matter of when this deal gets done, just how much of that they're able to get.
Okay, thank you for your work on that.
Dan?
Yes, Representative
I'm
Schumacher.
sorry, I missed that.
Yep, this is Dan Wildermuth. Just a couple items. I know we've talked to you before about it, and I realize, again, with the ongoing litigation, you can't talk too much about the lawsuit against DHS and concerned with procurement and also the county-based purchasing. But just, again, want to reiterate to you just how important that is to us, and hope that when the time comes that we can have some open discussions about it, that you understand our position on this. And it doesn't just affect just the counties that have got the joint powers boards put together, such as Prime West and some of the others, but actually this procurement procedure affects every single county in the state. So it is very important, and we need your support on that. Can you give us any type of update?
Yeah, and the departments, I don't know if they see retirements on the coming up in the future there, or why they're being so aggressive with it right now. I haven't seen it this way in my time up there, at least, on just how they're approaching it. And of course, there are proposals too that just do away with all of this and just move to a Minnesota Care type model for everyone. And that one, I know there's something similar to that is in the House HHS bill, which is part of the reason I'm heading up to St. Paul right now, is to be there for the Ways and Means hearing on that, to make sure that we get those pieces in there. But you know, it's about having a level playing field and having things fit for for the people in that area. And if it's going to be based on counties, and that's how it's going to be marked, and the county decides to go a different way, that's something that we should be open to, and just have it be how they choose to approach it, as long as we keep an open model. But the department doesn't seem to be looking at that open model at the moment for that. And so, but like you acknowledged too, there's the ongoing lawsuits and everything, and so no one's really talking about it. I could say whatever I'd like on it, but I don't know the ins and outs of the lawsuits either for that, and how that might be going, or what the arguments may be on that. But yeah, definitely something we're keeping in mind as we go throughout the session. And of course, there's the bigger piece of that, similar to a single payer model that's being proposed too, that we're trying to fend off. And so all of those components are part of the discussion this year.
I guess though, you mentioned level playing field, and again, the lawsuit itself basically is just asking that the commissioner of DHS comply with the statute. The statute was written back in the 70s, allowing, again, because Prime West and the other providers, we are not for-profit companies, we're not even companies. We are joint powers. We are owned by the county. So all we're asking is for the counties to be able to provide this without having to have it opened up for for-profit companies to come in and compete against ourselves. So we're not asking for any advantage here. We're just asking for the existing statute to be followed. So I don't understand how that is an unfair ask. Now, you mentioned retirements. Could you elaborate? What do you mean by upcoming retirements? Do you mean the commissioner herself, or who are you referring to?
No, that was just random speculation on my part. Usually when you see something get hedged up, it's because someone's looking to accomplish some things before they're on their way out. And so I don't know anything in particular. It's just from what I've seen in the past on other issues that kind of is the approach once in a while. We had it with the nursing home bill that we passed back in 2015 with that, and one of the bigger motivators there was that the person who had been working on nursing home rates in Minnesota for 40 years was planning to retire, and so had a lot of extra motivation to get something passed. Was a whole lot more helpful than he'd been in the past on things, and that's all that was. There was nothing.
Well, I don't believe that's really applicable
about that.
Yeah, that's not really applicable here, because all we're asking is that the state statute be followed. And the commissioner is saying that she has got the latitude to follow or not follow, and that's not the case. Again, if you want to compare it to an analogy, of course, from our area, we're all familiar with the rural electrics. And we know all the issues that we had a number of years ago with preference power. Well, the rural electrics got their power from the hydro dams because, again, it was the investor-owned utilities could not offer power out in the country because there's no profit margin for them. So that is really where FDR's New Deal really came in altogether on this. I know this might sound like a tangent, but I'm using it as an example, saying it was the same thing here with our Prime West. Back 20 years ago when we formed, we could not get anybody else to come out and help because it's the county's responsibility to provide this type of service to our citizens. So instead of us doing it individually, all 14 counties, we banded together in joint powers to do it more efficiently, more effectively. And now we're being told, well, you're too efficient, too effective, you have to open up because now the investor-owned companies want to come in here and compete against us, and you're saying we have to open ourselves up to competition. So I know on the surface it might appear as though, well, it's a level playing field, the expression used. But it's not a level playing field because, again, we are our own entity. We are just providing services for our people. So we really, really want the commissioner to follow the state statute that allowed for this county-based purchasing to start in the first place. It's that simple.
And it could be seen as a power grab by the agencies looking forward at the potential retirement of our governor. Because, you know, currently we have a governor who's allowing these agencies to use their authority beyond the scope of what they're statutorily allowed to do. And, you know, that may not be the case after November. So, you know, they might have a little sense of urgency that they need to get it done now rather than after the election. But
and this isn't the first time this issue's come up. It seems like every couple of years we have to battle this, battle.
Right, but it seems worse lately, and it's not just this DHS. It seems like you know, a number of agencies are doing things beyond the scope of their typical duties or obligation, and it's unfortunate that they're, you know, trying to create law through rules versus than through the legislative process.
That is for sure, and we've seen plenty of that in this and a number of different areas this year, and so the courts are more involved now with this than what they really should be. It should be easy enough to follow what the law is and not decide to reinterpret it. And like you've made mention, it's going to be an ongoing issue for us, I'm sure.
I sure appreciate all you're doing there, Joe.
It's a pleasure, sometimes.
Any other questions for Joe?
Joe, this is Steve. I've got just one item here that I received a letter from the Minnesota Ambulance Association the other day. There's a House File 3691 that's looking to provide funding at a level of $35,000 for each ambulance service in the state of Minnesota to help for training and recruitment incentives to try to keep hopefully all of these ambulance services that are struggling with a little bit of money to help find some people and pay for training and some equipment they might need. And I see the total request is about $31.5 million statewide, and that would help each. There's a Senate file on it as well, 3549, and the House one is 3691. And out here in rural Minnesota, we certainly request your help on that too. I know you being from Rock County, you understand the needs of rural EMS and what we need out here for ambulances and first responders and everything we need. And the business isn't getting any less, but unfortunately we're all running out of bodies to do the work. So anything that would help would be awesome. If you could see a way to support that would be great.
Yeah. I guess I'm not sure where in the process that might be right now, if it's in the transportation bill, the public safety bill, or the HHS bill. And that's another thing that, you know, you can't recruit people to work for ambulances and so, but they also fall under 3 different buckets in the state budget too, and that makes it complicated for everyone along the way. So I'll definitely look into that and see where that is supposed to be, and if it's actually moving anywhere with that. And it makes absolute sense. We hear about the access. It's an access issue more than anything else.
Agreed.
Just an access issue.
Yeah, and I'm not sure where it's at in the system. I didn't research it that far and get that deep. It just came in yesterday. So all I know is it's 3691 on the House side. Thank you.
36. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody? Kyle or anything? Nothing back there? Okay.
Well, I want to thank you, Joe, for taking the time to visit with us this morning.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad it worked out, and we'll keep it up. Only a few more weeks, and then all the answers will be there.
Okay. So thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Safe travels.
Thank you. Have a good day. Yep.
Goodbye.
Okay, back to the reports. Luke?
Okay. On March 8th, had plan ops. On the 9th and 10th, we had hospital union negotiations. On the 14th, one watershed, one plan for the Missouri River. Their current funds were all encumbered, but they are waiting for the next funding round, which they have since received. And also had the redistricting committee that day. On the 22nd, the hospital board. On the 24th, that Prime Health informational meeting. On the 25th, the Vera Board of Consultors had federal, state, and system updates. On the 28th, at the Regional Solid Waste, the SCORE funding and closed landfill fund bill are moving forward. And there was a lot of discussion about demo landfill requirements going forward, and probably in about 5 years, most of the counties in our area are gonna be out of demo landfill space, so, we're gonna have to figure out some way to address that going forward. On the 30th through the 1st, I was at the AMC Leadership Conference with Steve. On the 4th, the MRC met, and we went over a lot of our priority legislative issues, which we've been discussing with our legislators. On the 17th, the Area 2 and RCRCA met, or on the 7th, I mean. Brad Cruselbrink was in attendance as our new soil and water member. And the dredging project is beginning this month, and on the 22nd, I went to a kind of a kickoff celebration, which they held on Earth Day but yeah, the dredging is operating, or the dredge is operating, and they're starting the project, and was able to talk with Senator Dames and Representative Torkelson at that event last Friday. On the 11th, had plant ops again. On the 13th, the District 8 land use. A lot of discussion on that carbon pipeline. Some counties are requiring an EAW before they'll issue a conditional use permit. Nobody's issued them any permits yet, and I think there's even some landowners kind of trying to get together to put a kibosh to it if they can. They talked about also the less wind projects due to the lack of transmission capacity and the decrease in production tax for local counties. Demo landfills came up again. John Shea, who used to work in the zoning office for Nobles County, took a job with Bowser. And Jackson County has a new county attorney, and all 5 commissioners have to run because of redistricting. On 14th, Soil and Water met, NRCS local work group scheduled their meeting